The CDC has issued new guidance on the vaccine schedule for infants, and now the agency is recommending the hepatitis B vaccine be administered no earlier than 2 months. GMAT's Emma Kay is here now to help walk us through this change and what doctors are saying about it. Emma?
The new recommendations roll back a universal recommendation to start hepatitis B immunization from birth. It's been standard practice in the U.S. for more than 30 years. Vaccination happens in stages, and full immunization involves 3 shots. One given at birth, with the second 1 to 3 months later, and the final dose at 6 to 15 months. The panel has also voted to recommend testing children's antibody levels after each vaccination to determine whether additional doses are needed. That means some babies may get 1 or 2 shots instead of the standard 3.
I think it's a very poor choice, and I think it's going to cause illnesses and deaths more in the United States and across the course of the world.
We don't know the exact potential impact of exposure to vaccines, but we do know that their immune system is not fully developed, their metabolism is not fully developed, their brain is not fully developed, and we know that all of these systems are interacting with each other.
Immunization in infancy provides lifelong protection against the hepatitis B virus, which can be transmitted from mother to baby during childbirth. New guidance still encourages moms who test positive to have their children inoculated at birth. Otherwise, the CDC says parents and physicians should weigh the risks and benefits of getting that vaccine at birth. The shots will still be covered by all types of insurance, including Medicaid and CHIP. Lane,
all right,
back to you.
Emma, thanks for this heads